Hi, and welcome to the Urban Tech VC, a podcast for urban leaders shaping the cities of tomorrow. If you love our show, do drop us a review, share it with your friends, and follow 2BX on LinkedIn or Instagram. Today, we're happy to welcome Luisa, co-founder and COO of Evernest, a tech broker that is changing the German real estate scenario, combining startup culture with many years of industry expertise. Luisa is the head of business operations, finance, and personnel in Hamburg. If you're an urban tech founder about to raise a round, do reach out to us. We'd love to connect and see if we should play together.
Hi, Luisa. Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time talking to us here at the Urban Tech VC.
Yes, thanks a lot for having me. I'm very happy to be your guest.
So you have to know, I'm very intrigued by the paths people take in life. So before we jump into our first topic, I would really like to know, how did you come to become a founder and do what you do?
First of all, I never had the big dream as a child to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. And I'm not the person who has grown up in an entrepreneurial family. So my mom is a doctor, very conservative, very risk averse. My dad studied science, was a high-performing manager at Henkel, but not the best or the most successful entrepreneur. So that's why I decided to study something general, something safe. So I decided to study international business in Munich, Boston, and Leipzig. As everybody, I worked in a consultancy for several years. And thank God I came in contact with the real estate industry and joined England Focus, one of the biggest players in Germany in the brokerage business. I was responsible for the overall digital strategy. So I got to know a lot about how agents work in the residential segment, what do they need to offer the best service, and also how can tech support them in increasing their performance. And these times, I really learned about scaling up big sales teams, about the brokerage services itself, and about business opportunities. So we discussed a lot about how to improve the business, how to scale up very fast. And this was the time where I decided to start something from scratch. And Christian and me, we founded Evernest 2.5 years ago. Yeah.
That is an amazing journey. But you said one thing that I actually do not hear that often. So I want to dig a little bit deeper.
I want to guess. I want to have a guess.
Yeah,
it was, thank God I joined real estate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're all fascinated by it.
Yes.
But it is something that not a lot of people say, I would say. Can you explain a little more in detail? This really comes out of your heart, right? So what fascinates you so much about real estate, and what is it that drives your passion in that industry?
First of all, I think I really can say this sentence because as a consultant, I jumped into several industries, into several projects. And what really fascinates me in the real estate industry was the passion for the product, because when I meet the people working with properties, they really like the product and they really have a passion about properties. And I think this is a really fascinating thing. And to be honest, also one thing, real estate industry and sales is a very same area. I experienced that I really like the sales guys and I like the sales people and their passion to do their job and to motivate people and clients.
Passion is the perfect word for me because I want to get a feeling for your personal view on cities, because urban areas are our passion at 2BX. So I would really like to get to know your personal view of how will cities of the future look like.
Yes, actually, it's an interesting question. And I had a lot of discussion about this one. So to be honest, I have no specific answer to this, or not a general opinion. But my personal opinion is that in case everybody is talking about cities of future, you talk about smart cities, right? So, and smart cities are defined by meeting all the needs of its inhabitants. Okay, yeah, nice definition. But then I think we face the first problem. So every city is characterized by special inhabitants, so with a unique culture and needs. So the perfect solution would differ city by city. And so my personal answer is, and I stick to my town Hamburg for now because I'm living in Hamburg. I really like the old buildings. Yes, so the traditional old buildings. And of course, in discussion with sustainability, of course, there is a concept needed how to reduce the energy cost for inhabitants, etc. But I really like the old structure of cities. And I think there's a second really important point we need to talk about it. It's about infrastructure and mobility. We see in Hamburg that they improve their infrastructure day to day. And I think that's a really good thing to do. And I associate a smart city or a city of the future with a good infrastructure and a good possibility to mobility. And what I personally really like about Hamburg is, or actually about all current German cities, and I hope that will not change in the future, is that a good mix of living concepts. So you have a city center living, crazy party locations, for example, with the Hamburger Kiez. It's really close by to family areas, parks, a lot of water with Alster and Elbe. And I really like this one, and I hope this won't change when we talk about the future of cities.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Luisa, you mentioned something very interesting, right? You said, okay, city of the future or smart city meets the needs of its inhabitants, right? I think there's a very good definition of what we should expect from cities of the future. But that also, and you implied that as well, requires that you meet the needs of a lot of different people, right? And different groups and different stakeholders, so to speak. Not talking only about like inhabitants or like different groups of inhabitants of a city, but also politics, real estate owners. I mean, cities without real estate do not work, right? So we have a lot of different interest groups, a lot of different stakeholders in those areas that we need to somewhat manage. Right. So, and you're in an industry that particularly involves a lot of stakeholders, right? And a lot of different interest groups. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an insight of what you do at Evernest and how this involves managing stakeholders in a particular way, right?
Maybe let's start with the business model we're operating in. So we are operating in a very simple business model. We sell properties, we bring seller and buyer together, make sure that both parties find each other and like the process and are happy with the deal. So this is our operating business model. And I would say most people summarize the real estate brokerage market as followed. So first of all, it's not digital at all. Stuck in the 90s. So, for example, as a client, you do not have any transparency within the selling process of a property. Even when you order a pizza via an app, you receive more updates than in selling process of a property. Second, it's a really fragmented market. So in the past, it was a very local market dominated by small local players. You can imagine the biggest player has only 5% market share in Germany. So you really face a fragmented competitive market. And last but not least, I would say being an agent is like not the best image for a job, right? So everybody can be an agent and there are no barriers to enter the market. Many clients describe agents as old school or superficial or think it's not justified that they earn so much money for the, in brackets, like unprofessional service. And we as the Evernest team really want to change the broker image, right? So we substitute agents with a well-performing tech platform to meet all the clients' requirements. And therefore, we offer the best platform for the agents to improve the business. And what does it mean in detail and what does it mean in terms of our stakeholders? So our stakeholders from Evernest view are agents, sellers, and buyers. Maybe coming back to your point, different profiles in a city and different needs. We also face this one with our stakeholder management. So agent profiles are very diverse. Yeah? So we have young talents, experienced professionals, sales profiles, also career changers with zero background in real estate or sales. And the only thing they really have in common is that they are freelancers. So they are also entrepreneurs. And all of them face up and downs of being an entrepreneur. And they love properties. I'm coming back to the passion of real estate because you feel that the agents love properties and their job. They are very committed to the Evernest team and they really want to outperform the market and want to do the best job. And then we have also sellers and buyers again, also very diverse, because we have families, we have young couples, we have old couples, we have singles, whatever. And the thing they have in common is, from my point of view, buying or selling a property it's like a once in a lifetime event or experience. So it's very emotional, and they really feel sometimes insecure in the process. And so in our daily business, as the Evernest team, we face different profiles in different life situations, and all of them have different expectations of the brokerage services. And in these situations, I recognize that the clients, and now I'm talking about the seller and the buyer, demand both. On the one hand, individual consultant, so the agent, they can trust and offers like a safety feeling in the new process, and also in tech-enabled service process they know all from the other segments, as I mentioned before, for example, ordering a pizza. So I think that's one of the nicest things we face, that we deal with different profiles and being between all of them.
Thanks for the overview. You described the agent profiles as very diverse, but they all have in common they are freelancer entrepreneurs. They have this passion about properties. And that's really like a reflective view on it. And I really loved it, because actually I didn't expect that. Not from you. I didn't know you before, but from like what you are doing, to really see that kind of, hey, our vision, you mentioned like our vision is to change the broker's image, to really deal with how we are viewed and correct that, like live it in a different way. I really like that. And I guess it's not that easy, is it?
No, it's not easy. And it's also part of our business model to improve existing agent performance, right? So you need to offer the platform to make it happen, that they can also improve their agent performance. And we do this by offering several things. So on the one hand, we have tools, apps, features supporting the whole brokerage services. So they can acquire clients, they can evaluate properties in a better way. They do a nice and cutting edge property marketing and manage the clients in a way the clients expect that. And in addition, it has also a lot to do with nice team culture, nice marketing and brand, which is not stuck in the 90s. It's also about forming an agent team so that they can deal together, they can share clients, they can share potential business and motivate each other in a well-performing sales team. And I think also it has a lot to do with training. So we train and manage the agents. So it's not like only working on a tech platform. It's also about joining the academy, talking to the team leaders and team managers. So there's also an individual services for the agents to really improve the business and the services in every detail.
Maybe one thing, and I might be being a little bit provocative here, and I really get your view, but you could also say in brokerage, and you mentioned it, it's your customers, they're going to sell once, right? Most of your customers, it's a once in a lifetime experience to sell a property and to buy a property, right? Your agents, they're motivated to earn a lot of money. So you could also say, go the totally different approach and say, you know what, it's just about inflow of deals, outflow. We need no retention anyways because our customers are not coming back. So I do not need to take care of this complex environment. I just could completely ignore it and just push through, right? So why not do this?
Yes. I think in this case, someone who's thinking like this really underestimates the referral power. So we are working in metro markets, and the network or like the clients talk to each other, right? So imagine you are in a group with families and everybody's talking about, okay, now we need a bigger home because the second child is coming, and what is a good brokerage firm to work with? So, and they talk to each other, and the referral business is a really strong business. And I think it's a crucial fact also to win the market. So maybe it's not a retention on each client. And we also have this one, right? So we also have investors, we also have sellers who own additional properties. But I think the power of referrals with existing clients is also very, very crucial for the agent to build up their own seller and buyer network within the city, because city seems to be big, but actually the local districts or areas in a city are very, very small and people talk a lot.
I totally get the point that referral power is super important, but do you have like KPIs proving that for your business?
Yes, definitely. So I think this is also one crucial point of our tech platform. So we have a really strong CRM system. It's not really a CRM system. It's like we track and know every detail about the process and also about the client cycles and about how to do brokerage services, and also what is the history of making deals in terms of pricing, in terms of areas, which also helps us a lot to improve the business in the future. So yes, we track, of course, also the performance in terms of evaluation, client evaluation. Do we get good feedback? In case we get a negative feedback, we try to get in contact with the client and ask for more details to improve the business.
I will be honest with you, that doesn't sound so that complex, right? I think compared to the status quo, this is like very innovative or kind of like future driven, what you guys are doing. But can you tell me, why is the industry, why is Engel & Völkers, why are the big players, why is JLL, why are they not doing this? Why did it need Evernest, to bring brokerage to the next level and really focus on the complex environment, measuring everything? I mean, this is something that is very obvious to me, I think.
Yeah, maybe let's start with the competitors. So we face, as I mentioned before, a very fragmented market. So you have, most of them are local players. So they are one-man shows and they are happy with their business. They do not need to change. They are happy with their business performance. And they do not have the power to build up a big agent platform, right? So I think this is one reason. Then we face the big players like JLL and BNP and you name them, but they are focusing the commercial market. And I think dealing in a commercial market, you face different customers, different processes, different ways of doing business. And of course, you can ask yourself, okay, why they are not developing an overall agent platform. Yeah, that's true. But I think it's also another segment, commercial versus residential. And then, of course, you have the big player in the residential market in a bigger size. And I think they face sometimes legal constraints. Yeah, so most of them are in a franchise system. I think their business also works, right? So it's like they do not have the biggest need to change, but I think it's more about, like in any other industry, we also face the same problem or challenge. Older companies are kind of slower in developments and scaling up very fast.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me that this poses a huge opportunity for you guys, right? And I mean, you're doing amazingly good, which is great. So what, in your opinion, is the right balance of being disruptive, but in a way that you can really like make yourself a hold of the market, establish yourself in a good way, and change a very old-fashioned industry without being like the total outsider, right? You explained it. You have to build trust. People have to trust you. It's a very important thing. So you cannot deviate completely. If you go out there and tell people, what, we're doing NFT-based brokerage, they might, I think VCs might gonna like that, or maybe not at the moment, but you would not gain trust with your customers, right? So this is a fine line you have to maneuver all the time. So maybe you can give us a little bit of an overview from your side, how you deal with everyone being used to old-fashioned industry and you guys pushing in new solutions and without losing trust or being an unreliable business partner.
Yeah. Look, I think overall in general, you have two entry points with a new company. So option one is you enter an existing market with an existing business model, and your aim is to win the market with operational excellence in combination with cutting edge improvements. So this is option one. Then you also have option two. You have identified a new problem and you might think that you have the perfect solution for this. So you are creating a new business model itself, I would say. Both options are risky. So option one is risky because you need to prove that you have a better solution. You think that you can we build up a better business than competitors on the market older than 10 or 15 years. And you have to win additional market share with innovative ideas. And option 2, of course, is also a risky entry point because you need to prove that this problem exists. So this is the first big risk you face. And second, you need to prove that your idea for solving this problem is the most efficient one. So for now, we as the Evernest team, we are belonging to option 1. We want to outperform the market with our best agent platform. So both agent profiles, on the one hand, experienced agents and also career changers enter the market and outperform. So we are not disruptive in the business itself. Real estate broker with agents exist for years, but we are disruptive in the way how we outperform the existing business. So we are making a change in every detail within the customer journey. Why we are doing this? We are collecting a lot of data points, a lot of insights within the process. So we are working in parallel on new disruptive things, which also can change the overall brokerage experience. But therefore, you really need to understand in the existing process where is room for improvement. And I think this is, from my point of view, an efficient way to be disruptive in an existing business model, because just to think about crazy ideas to be disruptive won't work in an existing business model, because as you said, the client would say, hey, I don't need this, or I like the older way or the more traditional way. So why did you change this one? So I think, first of all, we really need to understand where is room for improvement. And this is how we do it.
And Luisa, did you have any situation where you felt like this is so important to have that new innovative feature, and the other side, like one of your stakeholders said, like, I don't mind, I just don't care. It makes sense, like from your point of view, and it would be innovative, but I don't really care. Do you have that kind of, it was too disruptive or too innovative example you can share?
Of course, there are small things, right? So you have ideas and then nobody's using it. And you ask yourself, okay, why? This is the nicest feature. But there was not a crucial disruptive idea because we have initiated a test team, like to test some ideas in the facing the seller's or the buyer's problem. And they do interviews and getting deeper inside, okay, is there a problem or would that be a nice idea? And so that's how we try to avoid putting too much resources on ideas we did not challenge with the clients. So this was one thing we really learned also at England Focus or at other companies. So I think this is a good way to avoid putting too much resources with your team on things which are not a big value creator on the market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all about that, right? So figure out very fast if you're being like too early in the market or too, and it's not about feature design. It's more like, okay, this is, again, as I said, we're trying to do NFT-based brokerage, right? Again, might be a good idea, but would not have been accepted, I think, by most of your customer bases.
Yeah, probably not. Like, talking about your own experience, what would you say is key in stakeholder management in general?
I think key is to listen and to understand the needs and to get a feeling of the individual situations, and then you can react in a proper way. I think this is one of the key learnings I made in the past.
And is there anything like special when it comes to stakeholder management in real estate, like the one thing you would like every founder out there to know who is in this industry or start something in this industry?
No, actually, to be honest, I have no one. And in case there is something, I really want to learn it. But yeah, I can tell something about, okay, what do we say to the agent, how he can deal with seller and buyers, for example. So I think there's really important to understand the situation and to get a feeling of, okay, what is really the customer's need? So for example, from a seller perspective, is the price important or is the time to sell is important, right? So this really has an impact on your brokerage services. Or what is the buyer's need? So, and this is also a detailed question, right? So maybe they have a dog and they really they think they need to have a garden, but you can also solve the problem with finding a house which is close by a park or something. So I think this helps you a lot to understand, okay, what is really the need, and then to adapt or offer the best service according to this one.
The level of empathy is by any means very important and very often underestimated, right? And
yes.
The connecting the dots and thinking ahead is something that's very valuable.
Yes.
Let's make a cut here and stop talking about Evernest and brokerage. You have been featured on the list by one of the biggest German newspapers, Handelsblatt, of the 50 most successful female entrepreneurs in Germany. So first of all, congratulations. And we know it's well-deserved, right? So can you give us a little bit of background how this happened and what came out of it, right? Because I think this is not nothing. Susanne Klatten is on this list, right? So it's just like, it's crazy being in one row with those well-known entrepreneurs, again, well-deserved. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about how this happened and what came out of it?
First of all, thanks a lot. So, but I really would like to underline that without having an enterprise, you're not an entrepreneur. So this is really a team success. Without this perfect team, or the Evernesties, we call ourselves, would never be so successful and visible in the market. And I think this is why, or this is the main reason why the new newspaper guys became aware of me. And of course, we were really happy about this one, and it was a great success. And it was nice to be there in the room, like with other very impressive profiles. In addition, we have to admit that both, on the one hand, in the startup industry and also in the real estate sector in general, there's still more men than women. So obviously you stand out as a woman. And maybe I can tell you one experience from the Expo Real, the fair in Munich. Maybe you were there too, but in the middle of the buildings where the fair takes place, you find some places to have drinks and food and having lunch breaks or whatever outside. And so a very big crowd of hundreds of people was staying there. And I took a picture from a balcony. And afterwards, I realized, and this was kind of weird moment, I realized that 99% of the people in the picture were men. Mm-hmm. And I would say that it changed over years, but still it's a very dominant industry with men. Anyways, I'm more than happy to be part in this newspaper article. And with these kinds of articles, of course, new doors are open. So you get to know impressive new contacts in politics, entrepreneurial surroundings, etc. And which is, of course, very helpful to share experience. Right? And for example, maybe to answer your question, what came out of it, the whole crowd of female founders has now organized a 2 days offsite with panel discussions, dinner, etc., to get to know each other in person and share best and worst practices. And I'm very much looking forward to these 2 days. And actually, I do not care if there are only female founders or not. But there will be topics announced and discussed which are interesting anyway. So I think this is also a kind of an entry ticket to have opportunities to talk to people who also have worst and best experience to share.
I have never been on a list, and I think not many people have ever been on such a list. So how does it actually work? Like, did you get a phone call one day, or did you apply, or did somebody recommend you?
To be honest, it came out of the blue. So there was an email from the Handelsblatt or newspaper or whatever. They asked our marketing team, is available for an interview. We plan to have an article with female founders in Germany. This is how it happened. And then I had the interview, and this was in February. But then, as you all know, some bad news came up. So the topic of female founders, of course, was not priority number one. And then I was like, yeah, okay, they kicked the article, but anyways, it's fine. And then they came a phone call and said, yeah, now we are publishing the article. Sorry for the delay. So it's like 2 months later, but it will be out on Friday. And I was like, okay, wow, very surprising. And I really like the idea behind this. And also the talks or the interview was very impressive also from the other side, because they had already spoken to many other female founders. And it was great to also get some insights from the interviewer. This is how it happened. So it's like, yeah.
Now Mark knows.
Now everyone knows.
Now you want to figure out how to get on the list somewhere. But Luisa, you had one topic to add.
I would like to add one point. So I just want to make clear that my personal opinion is that best profiles get the job and will be promoted. So I don't really care about gender, culture, etc. But I think there's one thing you really need to keep in mind as a company or as a management team is you need to create a working atmosphere where everybody has the same chances to outperform the expectations. And one example to this one, so it was funny because we really discussed this topic of job sharing controversially in the management. Of course, it costs a lot additional resources, more time for coordination. But as a company, you broaden the recruiting funnel as hell. So we're really or are still really struggling in hiring an all-round talent in finance, right? And it was a full-time job posting. And then after posting a job a few weeks ago, also as a part-time role, you cannot imagine how many great and like not only women, but mainly women profiles came in, especially very experienced talents who have worked a lot in the past, might also want to spend more time with the family and also strive for 50 or 80% employment. But many of them were the perfect profiles for responsible roles. And I think that really shows that you need to take care of different life situations also as a management or as a company of your team members. And sometimes you can adjust it pretty easily, some conditions, to make everybody happy. So I just want to add this one because when you talk about female founders, female leadership, I think it's important to make clear, okay, I do not care about genders or female or not. I think the best profile needs to win, but you need to take care of creating an atmosphere where everybody has the chance to win this chance to get promoted.
It's impressive that you did it like proactively, because back then when I was working in a startup as COO, I was working part-time. I led the biggest team, but it was a challenge to convince like the typical founding team that this would be possible. And guess what? It was possible. But I was really happy, like you mentioned, that you wanted to do it or that you did that and you were happy with the results. And I really have that discussion a lot with founders we invest in, if that is a possibility or not. It's not always a possibility. I get that. To be open for that and to discuss it at least. That is an important part. But I would like to come back to that view on the balcony, looking at 99% of male or men standing there. Because at 2BX, we discussed a lot about unconscious biases. And I think like if it's a very male-dominated industry, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of unconscious biases. Is there any example that you would like to share where you think being a man might have been somehow easier than being a woman in the real estate industry or environment?
Yeah, of course, there are situations in the past or maybe also in the future you face. So yeah, maybe one situation, it was kind of weird that we were like sitting in a restaurant with the whole team. And right next to us, there was a nice lady table, yeah, and they had a lot of fun and had some drinks, and then we talked to each other. And then one of them came to our table and said, yeah, who's the boss of you? And like staring at the two boys at the table. And I was like, huh? Why that? It's so weird. Like, and it was driven by a lady, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think this describes sometimes, okay, only the feeling that it's not normal, that in case you are young or in case you are a lady or you need to say, hey, it's me. And it's like, oh, you. So I think that never happened to a man.
Yeah, probably not. I totally see that. And to like come to an end on that topic, is there anything you would like to recommend women being active in the real estate industry? Because we want more women to be there, right?
I think there are many things which are really positive, right? So a good education, to get a good network. I think this all helps to enter the industry and also to work on responsible roles. And I think sometimes I really can recommend that being self-confident is always a good way to go, and like not thinking about, okay, I'm not pretty sure if I'm able of this one. So like just try it, because all the other profiles also have the same opinion. A good like base of self-confidence, I think, helps a lot.
Nice, yeah.
But I mean, you have to admit maybe one last thing. The situation you described in the restaurant, it's hard to get a good or a strong or to be confident, right? If your surrounding suggests you all the time that you're not fit. You managed this perfectly, right? But I think at the moment where we still are, there is not enough awareness how much or how difficult it is if everybody tells you, no, you cannot be the boss. Yeah. No, you're responsible for the team. This cannot be. You're leading a finance team. I mean, this is, for your self-confidence, I think this is really tough.
It's really tough, but there are also some situations where you can know, like, where humor also helps a lot. So then it's like, okay, hey, are you kidding me? And then, so then it's like a more funny situation than such a serious situation. And I think this also helps to be more self-confident.
Yeah, I really am still like looking for the right answers in those situations, like to come up with a funny answer. If you have tips and tricks, we could do a best practice session for that, for the best answers.
But actually, it's so difficult, and I'm running really in so many situations where I do not have the fitting answer.
Yeah.
So I think you need to collect it, but I think it also doesn't make sense to collect the answers because then the situation is different. So. Yeah, but it happened to me all
It's just to get a feeling for, hey, it's a playful situation. You can like play and decide how you want to react. And if it's like safe enough to try, then just try it. You know, say things. You don't know these people. So just say, hey, how interesting. It's me. And by the way, I'm leading the whole restaurant right now. I don't know. Okay. I fear we have to come to an end. And we love to end our episodes with a quick fire round. And now it's all about like speed and gut feeling. You have 60 seconds for 10 questions, okay? Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Perfect.
Urban or rural area?
Urban.
Startup or corporate?
Startup.
Build new or modernize?
Build new.
Environmental or social impact?
Social impact.
Work from home or from the office?
From the office.
Disruptive or keeping with tradition?
Disruptive.
Bike or public transport?
Can I choose a third option?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go.
Walking, because I do not like ride bikes and I do not like public transportation. So I'm the walking person.
That is good. That is okay.
Next time I'm in Hamburg, I will have a walk and talk with you with a coffee in our hand.
Yes, perfect. Around the Alster.
B2B or B2C?
That's difficult to answer. B2B2C, maybe?
You know that at a certain point, people are mingling around those things, right?
Yes.
High rise or low rise?
High rise.
Functional or aesthetic?
Functional.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining, Luisa. We had a lot of fun.
Thank you.
We had a great discussion. And looking forward, like keeping in touch with you and see what happens to you, on which list you will end up next. And thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, we should definitely talk again to you after you had this 2 days.
Offsite.
A little bit more about this 2 day offsite.
Yes, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, looking forward to that a lot.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Urban Tech VC, a podcast for urban leaders shaping the cities of tomorrow. If you love our show, do drop us a review, share it with your friends, and follow 2BX on LinkedIn or Instagram. And if you are about to raise a round, drop us a note at LinkedIn or via email at idea@2bx.vc. Let's have a talk and see where we can help.